Hi, everyone. My name is Jeremiah Jones, and let's begin with a question that sounds simple, but is much deeper than most people realize. What is social work? Now, I want you all to take a moment and think about your own understanding of the question. When you hear the term social work, what comes to mind? For some, it's therapy. For others, it is child welfare. Some might think of case managers or people working in government agencies, while all of those roles are part of social work, they only represent a small piece of what the field truly encompasses. Social work is not limited to one setting or role or even population. It's a dynamic and multifaceted field, and it operates across systems, communities, and institutions. Social workers are present in hospitals, helping patients navigate complex diagnoses. They're in schools, supporting students' social, emotional, and behavioral needs and well-being, and in communities, addressing housing insecurities and food access, while also in policy spaces, advocating for systemic change. It's at its core, social work is about people. And not just individuals in isolation, but it's about people within the context of their lives, their environments, and their relationships, and systems that shape their experiences. This is what makes social work distinct from other helping professions. Throughout this presentation, we are going to explore social work in a comprehensive way. We will review and define the profession. We will examine its core values and discuss frameworks that guide how social workers think and practice. We will also compare social work to other professions to better understand what makes social work unique. Finally, we will explore why social work matters, not just as a career, but as a critical force in promoting equity, justice, and well-being. By the end of this presentation, my goal is for you to walk away with deeper understanding of social work, not just as a profession, but also as a perspective. I want you to see how social work shapes up in everyday life and how individuals are impacted by social work and how social work impacts our communities, how it plays a role in addressing some of the most pressing social issues we face today. I dedicate this presentation to all the future social workers in honor of Social Work Month, the current social workers. When I first became a social worker, I did not have much information about what the field was, and you're going to hear a little bit about my walk with the social work profession in the next slide. But I just wanted to make this in honor of Social Work Month and also to provide some clarity to other individuals who may not know what social work is. Ultimately, social work is not just about what we do, it's about how we see the world and how we choose to respond to it. So, before we dive deeper into the field of social work, I want to take a moment to introduce myself and share a little bit about my journey. My name is Jeremiah Jones, licensed clinical social worker and entrepreneur and doctoral candidate, dedicating to advancing mental health and social justice through cultural responsibility and through culturally responsive care. That's my whole goal, and to just basically expand social work and mental health to many individuals who may not have access to quality mental health in the Black diaspora. I earned my bachelor's of social work from York College in 2018 and my master's from Fordham University in 2020. My journey in social work began long before I formally entered the field. Starting as a teenager, I was actively involved in community service and advocacy, organizing fundraisers through talent shows and bake sales, helping raise over $5,000 in my middle school for a HIV clinic. Um, that was contributed to my mom helping us with baking and making her world famous curry chicken, which sold a lot of plates at the food sale. I credit um field and my early activism frame of mind to my social studies teacher, Miss Lewis, who instilled the values of social justice, equity, and history, being a good historian, and the importance of making meaningful impacts in the world around me. Those values came from that era of my life in middle school, and it carried me throughout life and is a big part of who I am today. During that time in high school, during the time in high school, I found myself supporting peers, offering guidance around relationships, identities, specifically other LGBT individuals, because I also came out in high school while also participating in educational initiatives that focused on HIV awareness, stigma reduction, around mental illness and cancer and other health-related issues. And I also did a lot of civil engagement. I continued my leadership development skills. I continue to develop my leadership skills through volunteering as a team mediator and advocate. And I also was a member of Teen Action, a program funded by St. Nick's Alliance. Um, who through this work, I was able to participate in grassroots organizing efforts such as lobbying City Hall for funding for the Summer Youth Employment Program, helping register over 10,000 Brooklynites to vote in the 2008 election, which Obama won. Supporting community gardens, which we had the community garden that was in Williamsburg. We were the first youth to plant there, and we were able to like give free produce to members of the community. Um, we also did organizing around food drives and clothing drives for the underserved, and we also volunteered at food shelters, which I continued to do even after high school. When I was thinking about developing my career and going to school, I initially considered being a lawyer. I discovered social work through academic exploration in Kingsborough, where I told them, don't really know what I want to do, but I just want to help people. And she recommended that I take Intro to Mental Health, which is also Introduction to Social Work. It's the courses that I transferred from Kingsborough to York College. Um, and it was just really interesting. Um, before taking this class, I had absolutely no clue of what social work was. But through my academic and professional journey, I realized that I've been practicing social work my whole life. And it's not just about what I do, it's about who I am. Throughout my academic journey and my professional journey, I encountered many misconceptions about social work, including burnout and financial limitations. Social workers make no money. And despite these narratives, I remain committed to this field. Today, I hold multiple degrees, clinical licenses in many different states, two licenses away, both LMSW and LCSW. I have experience across a diverse setting of settings, including nursing homes, shelters, schools, the hospital systems, psychiatric facilities, outpatient clinics, and now my own private practice. These experience has shown me a deep depth of versatility, and different skill sets on how to impact this profession that I am. I am the founder and owner of my own practice, Urban Black Therapy, which is a growing private practice focused on providing culturally affirming and identity-centered care. I built a sustainable and impactful career, earning well or well into the six figures while challenging outdated assumptions about the possibilities of what social workers can earn and what social workers can do. I am currently pursuing my doctorates in social work at Simmons University, with a focus on leadership and education and expanding access to mental health services further. While I am very, very, very satisfied with being a social worker, I am definitely looking for other avenues to add into how I can further help clients. I am considering possibly adding another profession in combination with social work, but I will always be a social worker, and I love having the not only professional background as a social worker, but having the identity as a social worker. When I reflect on my journey, I recognize social work is more than a profession to me. It is a core part of who I am. And my goal is to inspire current and future social workers to embrace this purpose and their purpose and challenge limitations and recognize the power that they hold to create meaningful change. And as we move through this presentation, I want you to keep in mind that social work is not limited to a job description. It is a way of thinking, a way of engaging in the world, and a commitment to supporting others in meaningful and impactful ways. So, what is social work? So now that we have introduced the topic and my background, let's take a deeper dive into what social work actually is. Social work is a profession focusing on individuals, families, communities, and navigating challenges to improve their well-being and their access to resources that they need to thrive. While this definition may seem straightforward, however, it only begins to fully capture the scope of what social workers do. One of the defining characteristics of social work is this emphasis on both individual and systemic factors. Social workers do not view problems in isolation. So when you come to us in therapy, we're not just looking at your mental health, we're looking at the whole picture. Instead, we consider how various elements such as environments, relationships, culture, and social systems impact and shape your own person's perspective. Social workers, we help people solve problems, but we also help them understand the context of how those problems are impacted by the things around them. So, for example, if someone's experienced financial stress, a social worker may explore not only the individual's behavior and decision making, but we will also explore broader systems that impact their financial situation, such as employment opportunities, access to education, or even systemic inequalities. Social workers, in addition, we focus on problems. In addition to problem solving, we focus on how we focus on how access to resources play a huge portion in helping individuals. Um, this may include connecting them to housing services, healthcare, mental health support, education opportunities, or legal assistance. In many cases, we act as a bridge or what we call broker between individuals and the systems they need to navigate. Um, okay, oh, I then went too far. Um, in addition to problem solving, social workers play a crucial role in helping individuals access resources. This may include connecting them to, okay, I'm gonna speed past that. Another important aspect of social work is advocacy. Social workers advocate on behalf of individuals and communities to ensure that their needs are recognized and addressed. This can occur on multiple levels, from advocating for a single client within the healthcare system or working on policies that impact entire populations. All this work is guided by ethical standards and a commitment. Oh, back to skipping ahead. But basically, all these standards are guided by ethical standards and commitment to social justice. Us social workers are trained to operate within a framework that prioritizes dignity, respect, and fairness. This means that social workers are not just helping people, it's about helping people in a way that is ethical, equitable, and culturally responsive. Social workers, um, while social work professionals are found in a wide range of areas, including hospitals, schools, community organizations, government agencies, and private practices. Despite our diverse roles, we are united by a common purpose to improve social well-being and support individuals in navigating life challenges and moving them towards a social well-being and managing the barriers to social determinants of health. I want you to watch this video and I want you to take a pause and reflect on what you see in this video and this video has impacted your perception of social workers and what they do. Think about what stood out for you, what surprised you. Did any of this challenge your previous perspective of social work?
Social workers are dedicated to enhancing human well being and helping meet the basic needs of all people. We work to empower people who are vulnerable, oppressed, or living in poverty. Social work has been around for more than a century. Our profession has been instrumental in pushing for major social reforms, including Social Security, the minimum wage, and equal rights for minorities, women, and people who are LGBTQIA. We need social workers now more than ever. Today, social work professionals are tackling issues that include income equality, access to health care, and care for our aging population. Social work is one of the fastest growing professions in the country. There are more than 700,000 social workers in the United States, and that number is expected to rise to almost 800,000 by the year 2028. Social work is incredibly diverse. You'll find social workers in mental health, substance abuse treatment, healthcare, family and children's services, aging, in schools, and in local, state, and federal government. Learn more about the life changing support that social workers provide at helpstartshere.org. Social
Okay. Okay, now that you've seen that video, um, and you have a clearer understanding of what social work is and how it operates, let's talk about the foundations of its profession. The National Association of Social Workers, or the NASW, outlines six core values that help guide social work and the practice of social work. Um, these values are not just abstract ideas, they are central to how social workers make decisions, interact with clients, and navigate complex situations. Oh, sorry. The first value is service. Social workers are committed to helping people in need and addressing their social problems. This means prioritizing well-being of others and actively working to support individuals and communities. The second value is social justice. Social workers challenges inequalities and advocate for change, particularly for individuals and groups who are marginalized and underserved. This involves recognizing systemic barriers and working to address them. The third value is dignity and worth of a person. Social workers work to respect and the to respect the inherent values of each individuals and honor their cultural differences. This means supporting clients and making their own decisions and recognizing their own autonomy. This is also what we call the right to self-determination. The fourth is the importance of human relationships. Social workers understand the relationships are key components to change and healing. Building trust and connections is an essential part of the work we do. So it is very important to build rapport with your clients. And also when you're working on a multidisciplinary team, helping clients to foster the relationships and bridge the relationships between themselves and other healthcare professionals. Also teaching them the relationship and how to better understand the relationships between them and the people around them. That's their family, teachers, if you're working with students, lovers, friends, etc. Human relationships is very important because we all need each other. We do not operate in individualism. We are a interdependent society. And that is one of the core principles of being a social worker, understanding that we're all interconnected. The fifth value is integrity. Social workers are expected to act honestly and responsibly in all professional situations. This including maintaining ethical standards and being accountable for one's actions. Finally, the last value is competence. Social workers are committed to ongoing learning and professional development that ensures they are providing the highest quality of care and staying informed about best practices. So this means I don't operate outside of my scope of service. If I'm not trained in something, I don't practice it. Together, these values form the ethical foundation of social work. They guide not only what social workers do, but how they do it. Now that we introduced the six core values, I want to slow it down and really break them down apart. Because this is not just definitions to memorize for exam. These are principles that shape how social work is in real life situations. So let's talk about service. Um, guess I got a little bit ahead on the slide, sorry. So, service is about putting the needs of others first, but it's deeper than just helping. It's about recognizing when someone is in need and responding with intention and empathy and action. Service in social work is not passive, it requires engagement. It requires us to step in support and sometimes it requires us to advocate for others when they cannot do so themselves. It might look like connecting someone to resources, supporting them through a crisis, or simply showing up consistently in their lives. The next principle is social justice. And this one is the most defining values of social work, specifically for me, because I'm a big part. Social justice is a big part of what I do, and I believe in equity very, 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 very much. Social justice requires us to challenge systems of inequity and oppression. It pushes us to ask difficult questions like who has access? Who's being excluded? Who is being harmed? Social workers are not neutral when it comes to injustice. We are expected to recognize it and respond to it. That may involve advocating for policy changes, addressing discrimination, or supporting marginalized communities. Dignity for self-worth, dignity for worth, dignity and worth of person is the value that reminds us that every individual, regardless of their circumstances, deserve respect, and the right to self-determination. It means honoring people's identities, experiences, and autonomy. Even when we disagree with someone's choices, we still recognize their right to make their own choices, unless they are at risk of harm or to self or others. Those are the only times we don't recognize that. But if they are making safe, sound decisions for themselves and others, um, we are supposed to recognize their right to make those choices. If it puts them at intimate risk or puts others at intimate risk, we must step in and take action. So that's the only time dignity and self-worth of a person is kind of come second because safety is paramount. Um, this is especially important when working with people of diverse populations, where culturally humility and respect for all are essential. Importance of human relations emphasizes that the connection is central to change. Um, Social workers understand that people heal and grow through relationships. So whether it's through the relationship between the social worker and our client, or the relationship within family or communities, or these connections, um, between communities and policy or individuals and policy, we understand that all these connections are powerful tools for support and transformation. Integrity. Integrity supports honesty and ethical practice. Social workers are trusted with sensitive information in complex situations, and it's our responsibility to be transparent, and to act with professionalism and to take accountability for things that we do. This means maintaining boundaries, following ethical guidelines, and doing what's right, even when it's difficult. Finally, competence. It reminds us that learning never stops. Social work is constantly evolving and changing, and we must continue to build our knowledge and skills. This includes staying informed on the best practices, seeking supervision and consultation when needed, and engaging in ongoing professional development. Together, these values are not just guidelines, it's how social work is practiced every day, at least for most professionals. Let me stop being shady. All right. So the next we're gonna be moving on into one of the most important frameworks in social work is person and environment, often referred to as PIE. This concept is truly set social work apart from other professions. The person and environment perspective emphasizes that individuals cannot be understood in isolation. Instead, we examine how they interact with their environment. This includes families and their culture and their community and the broader system or society that influences their lives. So instead of asking, what is wrong with this person? We shift our thinking and we begin to ask, what has this person experienced? What systems are they navigating? What environmental factors are influencing their behavior and well-being? This shift is crucial because it not only moves away from blaming the individual for their own struggles, which we don't do as social workers, but we it helps us work towards an understanding, um, and understanding the context that their struggles exist in. For example, if someone's experiencing anxiety, um, a purely individual focused approach might look at only their thoughts and behaviors, but in PIE perspective, we would consider environmental factors such as financial stressors, family dynamics, cultural expectations, systemic barriers. This approach allows a more holistic and compassionate understanding of people experiences. It also helps social workers identify not just challenges, but also looking at the full environment and how we recognize sources of support, resilience, and communities that may not immediately be visible. Um, this is where like the eco maps come in and also the genograms. Um, that's a lesson for another day, but person and environment perspective is also essential for social workers. Culturally responsible practice and encourages us to consider how cultural identities, social norms, and lived experience shape how individuals understand and respond to the world around them. Ultimately, PIE reminds us that people are not the problem. Their environment, circumstances, and the systems they live in often plays a significant role in the challenges they face. Um, Building on PIE perspective, we're going to take a look at systems theory, which provides framework for understanding how um, different systems interact in individuals' lives. So systems theory tells us that people are part of a multi-interconnected system, and these systems do not operate independently. Instead, they influence one another. Um, to better understand this, we want to break it down into three levels: micro, meso, and macro. The meso level refers to an individual's immediate environment. So this includes close relationships such as family, friends, peers. The relationships often have a direct and immediate impact on a person's emotional and social and physiological well-being. Um, when you hear people talk about clinical practice and meso level social work, this is social work with families, groups, individuals, and peers. Whenever social workers interacting with a small group of people, this is usually referred to as micro social work. Macro level refers to the broader societal systems, including culture. Wait, sorry, I skipped over mezzo. The meso level includes a larger groups such as institutions, schools, workplaces, community organizations, systems that shape how individuals interact within the world and can either support or hinder the development and success of that individual. Macro levels refer to the broader societal systems, including culture, laws, policies, and economic structures. These systems have a wide-reaching impact and often influence access to resources, opportunities, and rights. What is important to understand about these levels are they're interconnected. For example, policy at the macro level can impact resources available at the meso and will in turn impact or infect individuals at the micro level. Social workers use system theory to understand these connections and identify where interventions are needed. This might involve working directly with an individual, supporting a family system, or advocating for policy change. Systems theory also highlights the ideas that change in one part of a system can lead to change in other parts. This means that interventions do have to happen at every level simultaneously. Targeting change can have a broader impact. So for instance, like I as a individual clinical social worker who's working with an individual might who an individual who is going to school and they are struggling for mental health purposes. I might write a letter on their behalf to help them out. Also, I might write like they could request a letter with their diagnoses and blah 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 blah, and I can write a reasonable and I can request reasonable accommodations. I could meet with the president of the college or the board and talk about how the school is failing to reflect on or address students with psychiatric needs, and why they might need to further develop their student student with disabilities program. I might get the community involved. Those are more meso level practices. Or I could lobby the state to create a new policy or law that would further help students like the individual I'm working with. So those are different ways how a social worker can provide impact on multiple levels to solve one problem that might be affecting the individual we're working with. But no matter which level you are on, um, or which level you're working with, whether it be micro, meso, or macro, you're supposed to be thinking about all three levels together. So PIE matters because these frameworks allow social workers to provide care that is holistic, informed, and effective. Without these perspectives, it would be easy to reduce complex experiences and situations to an individual problem. But social work challenges that in reduction and encourage us to look at things deeper and recognize multiple factors that contributes to a person's situation. Um, One key benefit of this framework is that it is culturally responsive. Um, by considering a person's environment, culture, and systems, social workers can tailor their approach in a way that is respectful and relevant. So, for example, if a client is experiencing housing instability, it is not enough to simply provide coping strategies. Social workers must consider factors such as housing policies, economic considerations and conditions, and access to resources. Additionally, these frameworks guide intervention planning. Social workers can determine whether or not to focus on individual support, family dynamics, community resources, or policy advocacy, or a combination of all of these. Another important aspect of these frameworks is to promote equity. By recognizing systemic barriers, social workers can advocate for change that creates a more fair and accessible system. Ultimately, PIE perspective and systems theory are not just theoretical concepts in a vacuum. They are practical tools that shape how social workers assess, intervene, and advocate. They ensure that social workers remain grounded in comprehensive understanding of human behavior and social systems. So now that we have a foundation of the values and frameworks of social work, we can begin to explore how social workers compare to other professions. While social work may integrate with a lot of different roles, and integrates a lot of roles into our and interact with a lot of roles. But it's unique because we integrate a lot of roles into our profession. Social work is not limited to a single function. They may provide therapy, coordinate care, advocate for resources, engage in policy work, all within the same role. One defining feature of social work is the PIE perspective. So this means that social workers are consistently considering both individual and systemic factors when addressing challenges. In contrast, other professions may focus more narrowly on specific aspects of the problem. For example, medical professionals may focus on physical health, while legal professions may focus on legal issues. However, social workers take a broader view. They ask, how does these different factors interact, and how does these systems impact individuals? What barriers exist, and how can we address them? Another distinction is the emphasis on advocacy in social justice. While many professions aim to support individuals and social work and similar to social work, but social work explicitly includes the commitment to addressing systemic inequalities and promoting equity. Social workers are trained not only to work with individuals, but also challenge the systems that contribute to their challenges. Additionally, social workers place a strong emphasis on ethical practice. The core values we discussed earlier are central to decision making and guide how social workers navigate complex situations. As we move forward with the slides, as you see above, we're going to be talking about social workers versus some other professions. Um, I will break down specific comparisons between social workers and other professions, highlighting both the similarities and differences. This will better help us understand the unique role that social workers play across various systems. Medical professions, such as doctors, nurses, NPs, which are nurse practitioners, physician assistants, play a crucial role in supporting individuals' physical health. Their training is centered around diagnosing and treating biological and physiological conditions. They are experts in their understanding of the body, diseases, processes, and medical interventions. It's important to acknowledge that social workers often collaborate with medical professionals in hospital settings. For example, social workers are part of the interdisciplinary team, including doctors, nurses, and other specialists. Together they work to support patient outcomes. So there are some clear similarities. Both professions aim to improve the well-beings of individuals they work for, like the patients. Both require formal education, licensure, and ongoing training. Both are committed to helping people. But the differences that stand out about social workers are medical professionals primarily focus on physical aspects of health. Social workers, on the other hand, focuses on psychological, social, and environmental factors that influences health. For example, a doctor might diagnose a patient with diabetes and prescribe medication. A social worker will ask additional questions. Does this person have access to healthy food? Does this person understand their treatment plan? Do they have transportation to medical appointments? Are there cultural beliefs that may impact how they approach their care? These questions matter because they're not just about the biological, they influence a wide array of social determinants. Social workers also play a key role in helping patients navigate the healthcare system. This might include discharge planning, connecting patients to community resources, or providing emotional support during difficult diagnosis, not only to the patient, but also to their family and loved ones. Another important distinction is that social workers address barriers to care. Even the best medical treatment is ineffective if a patient cannot access it, understand it, or sustain it. So while medical professionals treat the body, social workers treat the context surrounding the person. And that collaboration is what leads to a more comprehensive and effective care for the patients they serve. I skipped over medical provider. Okay, so now we're going to talk about social workers and other mental health professionals. At first glance, these professions seem to be very similar. All of them provide mental health. Um, all of the mental health providers, such as psychologists and counselors, provide mental health support, and all are trained in understanding human behavior. all use evidence-based practices to help individuals improve their mental health. However, there are important distinctions in training, focus, and approach. Psychologists are often heavily trained in assessment, testing, and research. They conduct psychological evaluations, administer standardized tests, and they contribute to research in the field of mental health. Their work is often more focused on diagnosis and understanding cognitive processes. Counselors, such as LPCs, licensed professional counselors, or licensed mental health counselors, often focus on skill building and, and therapeutic techniques. They may specialize in specific areas and approaches, such as cognitive behavioral therapy, and work with clients to develop coping strategies and behavioral changes. Social workers, particularly clinical social workers like me, also provide therapy and use many of the same evidence-based interventions. However, what distinctively distinguishes social workers is their integration of systems and environments into their therapeutic process. Social workers are trained to consider not only individual thoughts and behaviors, but a broader context of which those thoughts and behaviors exist. For example, if a client's experiencing depression, a social worker might explore family dynamics, financial stressors, cultural expectations, access to resources, experiences of discrimination and or trauma. This broader perspective allows social workers to address both internal and external factors contributing to mental health challenges. Additionally, social workers often take on roles beyond therapy. They may provide case management, connect clients to resources, as in brokering, um, advocate for systemic change and impact that systemic changes that impact mental health and beyond. So while there's a lot of overlap between social workers, psychologists, and counselors, social workers are unique in its holistic and systematic, system-oriented approach. Social workers and legal officers of the law. So attorneys or lawyers are trained to represent individuals within legal systems. Their primary focus is integrating and interpreting law, providing legal advice, and advocating for clients in the courtroom or legal proceedings. There are clear similarities between social workers and attorneys. Both professions advocate for individuals, both work within systems that impact people's lives, and both require specialized education and licensure. However, the scope and focus of their advocacy is significantly different. Attorneys primarily operate within the legal system. Their role is to ensure that their clients' rights are protected within that system, whether it be within the courtroom, whether it be within whatever agency they're working in or whatever practice they're working in. They're making sure that everyone is following law and policy, and that whoever's their client, whether it be the agency that they work for, the nonprofit they work for, the hospital they work for, or the client that they work for, is protected within that system. This might involve defending a client in court, negotiating settlements, or interpreting legal policies. Social workers, on the other hand, operate across multiple systems. They may advocate within the healthcare system, social welfare system, housing system, and education system. While social workers may collaborate with legal professionals, their role extends beyond legal representation. Social work often focuses on the broader context of a client's life. For example, if a client is involved in a legal case, a social worker may explore factors such as mental health, family dynamics, housing stability, and access to resources. Additionally, a social worker may also advocate for systemic change, not just on individual outcomes, but this might also involve um, change in policies, change in access to services, and they also may address systemic inequalities. Um, particularly, social workers also have what is called a forensic social worker who their job is to operate in the intersection of social work and the legal system, providing essential services like psychosocial assessments, client advocacy, expert testimony for victims or offenders and families. They work in courts, prisons, and social welfare, focusing on mitigating legal issues and providing counseling. So they have a very distinctive separation between what they do and what legal officers of the law do. So school social workers and formal educators. So teachers play a critical role in supporting students' academic development. They are responsible for delivering curriculum, assessing learning, and helping students build knowledge and skills. School social workers however, focus on factors that impact students' ability to learn, such as educational challenges, emotional challenges, behavioral challenges, family dynamic, social stresses, and environmental factors. While teachers may play a while teachers may notice that a student is struggling academically, a school social worker will ask deeper questions, such as, is this student experiencing trauma? Are there challenges at home? Is there a lack of resources or support? Are there mental health concerns impacting their ability to engage and focus? School social workers basically work closely with the student's family and staff to address these issues. They may provide counseling, facilitate support groups, connect families to resources, collaborate with teachers to create supportive learning environments, and they also may connect the school with community resources. Another key difference is that social workers often engage in family systems. They may work directly with the parents and or caregivers to address challenges that impact students' well-beings. School social workers also play a role in addressing broader issues such as bullying, attendance, school climate, and other issues. So, whilst teachers focus primarily on academic instruction, social workers focus on removing barriers to learning. Both roles are essential, and together they create more comprehensive support systems for students. But the work that school social workers do more is more about fostering the learning environment and removing barriers um to academia. So now let's explore how social work compares to fields like business administration, healthcare administration, public administration, and human resources. These fields share several similarities with social work. They involve leadership, strategy, organizational management, and decision making. For example, individuals with an MBA may focus on improving organizational performance, managing operations, and increasing profitability. Those in healthcare administration may oversee hospital systems, ensuring efficacy and efficiency and compliance. Public administration may Public administration professionals may develop and implement policies that impact communities. Human resources professionals focus on workforce management, training, and organization culture. Social workers, particularly those in administration or in leadership roles, also engage in these types of activities. However, the key differences lies in the focus on values that guides their work. So, in business and administrative fields, the primary focus is performance, efficiency, and outcomes, often tied to financial and organizational goals. In social work, the focus on people, equity, access, and ethics. Social workers in leadership roles are not just asking how can we improve performance. They're also asking who is being served, who is being left out. Are services accessible and equitable? Are we addressing the needs of marginalized populations? Social workers also bring a trauma-informed and human-centered lens into leadership. This means considering how policies and practices impact individuals' well-being. For example, in a healthcare setting, a social worker in an administrative role might advocate for policies that improve patients' access to care, address social determinants of health, and ensures culturally responsive services, services that will impact our patients. So while there's an overlap in skills and responsibilities, social work is distinct in its commitment to human-centered outcomes and social justice. So now that we explored how social work compared to other professions, let's explore why social work matters. Now we arrive at one of the most important questions of this entire presentation. Why does social work matter? By now, we've talked about definitions, values, frameworks, and comparisons. But the question that brings us all together is why that social work matters. Social work matters because it's a holistic perspective. Unlike approaches that focus solely on the individual, social work recognizes that people are shaped by their environments, their relationships, the systems they navigate. This perspective allows for a more comprehensive understanding of challenges and more effective interventions. For example, if someone's experiencing anxiety, social workers do not stop at identifying symptoms. They explore a broader context of financial stressors, family dynamics, cultural expectation, and systemic barriers. This holistic approach ensures that interventions are not only addressing symptoms, but also addressing the root cause. Social workers also matters because we bridge multiple systems. Individuals often interact within various systems at the same time: healthcare, education, housing, legal systems, and navigating these systems can be overwhelming. Social workers act as a what we call broker, helping individuals access resources and coordinating care across systems. This especially is important for individuals who face barriers such as limited access or lack of knowledge or systemic inequalities. Another crucial reason why social work matters is because of advocacy and social justice. Social workers do not simply accept systems as they are. We challenge them. We advocate for policies and practice promoting equity and addressing disparities among systems and among policies. This might involve working on issues such as housing access, healthcare inequities, um, education reform, criminal justice system, um, social justice system, and many other systems. We're getting to the point where my head is getting all over the place. However, this commitment to social justice ensures that social work is not only reactive but also is proactive. It seeks to create a change at both the individual and systemic levels. Additionally, social work matters because of the addressing of marginalization and inequality. Many individuals come from communities that social workers serve, though we have historically been, sorry, many individuals and communities that social workers serve came from historically underserved and excluded areas. Uh, Many individuals and communities that social workers serve are those who have been historically underserved and or excluded. Social workers play a crucial role in ensuring that these populations are seen, heard, and supported. Building on why social work matters is because it's an integrated role. Social workers do not operate within a single function. They combine many roles into the profession. They include therapy, case management, resource coordination, advocacy, and crisis intervention. Like, for instance, when I was on the YAC program as a social worker, I had to do all of this. We were the therapists. We did all the case management stuff, helping them get housing and access to other things. We did the resource coordination, referring them out to different programs. We advocated for them. We went to their housing spots, advocating for them. We would go to hearings for them, helping them get Social Security and funding. We also did a lot of crisis intervention when clients saw a danger to themselves or others. Many times we had to activate 911 and get them escorted to the hospital. When they were on units, we had to advocate for their care, be involved in discharge planning, and etc. So, social workers, when we're working in different environments, we serve many different roles that many other professionals may not do. This integration allows social workers to address challenges from multiple angles rather than relying on a single approach. Um, Another important aspect is human-centered leadership. Social workers bring a unique perspective to leadership roles because they prioritize people and consider how decisions impact individuals and communities, and they strive to create systems that are ethical, um, equitable, and accessible. This is particularly why social work is important in fields such as education, healthcare, and public policy, where decisions have a significant impact and are far-reaching impacts, and they go more than just impacting individuals in which they directly serve. Social workers also emphasize ethical decision making. The core values of social work guide how professionals navigate complex situations. These practices ensures that the decisions we are making are not only effective, but are aligned with the principles of fairness, respect, and dignity. Additionally, social work plays a key role in addressing social determinants of health, such as housing, education, income, access to resources. These factors have a significant impact in well-being on how social workers are trained and how we address them. In a world where there may be many different systems that are not designed to be equitable, social workers provide a framework for identifying and addressing how these gaps impact the people we work with and impact society as a whole. In fact, social workers often fill the gaps of capitalism because capitalism is all about um, having a divide in wealth, a divide in resources, and who could access resources. It also has a division of individuals based off of race. and other different things beyond just capitalism. We do know that all the other isms are deeply woven into classism. And although capitalism mostly focus on classism and divide people by social economic factors, we also understand that other different factors and other different um, disparities come into classism. It's not, it doesn't exist in a vacuum by itself. Race plays a part in it. Um, Age plays a part in it. Generational wealth plays a part in it. Where you're from plays a part in it. Um, Sexual orientation plays a part in it. Who gatekeeping plays a part in it. So social worker address all those gaps that capitalism basically sets up for individuals in the United States and abroad. So as you see, social worker and social work as a profession that not only responds to challenges, but we seek to transform the conditions that creates those challenges. So some key takeaways is that social workers are social work is an interconnected process. It is not limited to one role. Um, it's not limited to one setting or one approach. Social work integrates multiple elements, individual support systems, understanding, advocacy, and leadership into a cohesive practice. Even when social workers are not in leadership positions, they are expected to act as leaders. Um, the second takeaway is that social work, it focuses on the person as a whole and a person within their social work, I mean in their social environment. So um this may looks like social workers looking at their family dynamics, looking at policies that affect individuals, looking at their communities and neighborhoods. A person just doesn't exist in a vacuum. They exist in the broader community around them. Um, the third takeaway is that social work is grounded by values and ethics. The core values of service, social justice, dignity and worth, relationships and integrity and competence guide everything we do as social workers. These values ensure that the work is not only effective, but is also ethical and respectful. Um, the other takeaway I want you guys to get is that social work focuses on micro, meso, and macro. It operates on an individual level, provides direct support, and also operates at the systemic level, advocating for policy change and addressing social inequities. This dual focus allows social workers to create change on multiple different levels. Additionally, collaborability and social work is a collaborative approach. So social workers often work alongside professionals in other fields such as healthcare, education, and law. This collaboration enhances the quality of care and ensures that individuals receive a comprehensive approach and support. Finally, social work is about creating lasting change. It's not just about addressing immediate change challenges, it's also about addressing and improving systems, providing and promoting equity and supporting lifelong well-being. As we come to the end of this presentation, I want to leave you with some final thoughts. Social work is more than a profession, it's a commitment. Supporting individuals and communities in a meaningful way and a lasting way, advocating for equity, access, and social justice, challenging systems that often create barriers and perpetuate harm, and promoting well-being across all aspects of life. Social workers require more than knowledge. It requires a presence. It requires empathy. It requires ability to sit with people in some of their most difficult moments and still see their strength, resilience, and their potential. It also requires courage because us as social workers are often stepping into spaces where there are a lot of gaps. And there's gaps in resources, gaps in access, and gaps in understanding. In those spaces, we are called on to be responsive and to advocate and to push for change. For those of you who are considering entering this field, I want you to understand that social work is not always easy, but it is always impactful. There are moments where social work feels heavy, moments when social work feels slow to change, moments when social work may question whether what you're doing is enough. It may even make you question why did you get into this field to begin with. But I want you to remember this. Every interaction matters. Every time you support someone, advocate for someone, or help someone navigate challenges, you are making an impact. Even when that impact is not immediately visible, social work is about planting seeds. Sometimes you may not see every single outcome right away, but the work you do contributes to something bigger. And for those of you who may not consider becoming social workers, I still hope you take something away from this presentation today because these principles of social work, empathy, advocacy, and understanding systems and valuing human dignity is relevant in every field. No matter where you go, you will encounter people with challenges. You will encounter systems that need improvement, and you will have opportunities to respond in ways that are informed, compassionate, and impactful. Before we close, I invite you to stay connected. If you are interested, if you're interested in um, therapy services, group work, clinical supervision, or professional consultation, guest speaking opportunities, or teaching opportunities, please reach out to me below. And that is the end of my presentation. Um, I also want to leave you with some final thoughts. Social work is not just about helping people survive. It's about helping people thrive.